Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. 2 prairie provinces are now under states of emergency due to wildfires, as thousands are evacuating in northern Manitoba and northern Saskatchewan. At a press conference this afternoon, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe made the declaration, saying wildfires are having a devastating impact on communities and the province. 15 communities in Saskatchewan have been evacuated, with 17 active wildfires. Premier Moe says it's an unprecedented start to the wildfire season, with 206 wildfires to date, well above the 5-year average of 125 wildfires.
Today we're declaring a provincial wildfire state of emergency. Under that wildfire state of emergency are a number of initiatives then that we may have to use over the days ahead to further support the wildland fire suppression and firefighter activities that are happening in the north, further support those residents that are evacuated today or may have to be evacuated in the days ahead.
The Canadian Armed Forces are now providing airlift and logistics support to assist in the evacuation of residents from Pimicikamak Cree Nation, located in Cross Lake, Manitoba, and residents from Matthias Kalom First Nation. Royal Canadian Air Force aircraft departed Winnipeg and Trenton this morning to conduct the air evacuation. 17,500 residents in northern Manitoba are evacuating as a number of wildfires burn closer to their communities. Several First Nations are affected. Reporter Sav Jonesa has this update on the wildfires plaguing Manitoba.
This video shows a clear picture of what Pimicikamak Cree Nation residents are experiencing while fleeing wildfires raging near their northern Manitoba community. It's a long wait to safety with little movement as evacuees waited for a small ferry to cross the river to Norway House Cree Nation and return for more. William Thomas took the footage.
It is a pretty historic event that happened, a mass evacuation.
Pimicikamak declared a state of emergency and began proactively evacuating some of its 7,000 residents on May 23rd. Pimicikamak Cree Nation Chief David Monias says he asked the province to call for help from the Canadian Armed Forces, but was told the province needs to exhaust resources before that could happen. Though armed forces were deployed yesterday to the region, Monias says governmental bureaucracy delayed what could have been a smooth evacuation.
By the time that they sent the planes, only 2 of the 3 could land because the smoke was pretty bad. So we sent the people out to Norway House, and because Norway House doesn't have a bridge, they were bottlenecked at that ferry. People waiting up to 9 hours to get on that ferry to go across to safety. 9 hours. People without food, people without water.
It's been a devastating wildfire season throughout the province. Now 17,500 residents from across northern Manitoba are headed south to safety, with the majority en route by car roughly 650 kilometers south to Winnipeg. Community centers, arenas, and soccer fields will be turned into shelters with tents and cots. Premier Wab Kinew says it's the largest evacuation the province has seen in most people's living memory.
For the first time, it's not a fire in one region. We have fires in every region at the same time. And that is a sign of a changing climate that we are going to have to adapt to.
The area burned so far is almost 3 times the usual size for an entire year, but in just 1 month. First Nations are largely affected due to their rural locations. First Nations leaders met in Winnipeg today to discuss next steps and advocate for their communities.
We call upon the whole country to be able to stand with us, because this kind of massive evacuation is unprecedented. It has never happened before.
Officials say it's too early to tell how long people will be displaced from their homes, but that the state of emergency will be in effect for 30 days. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Meanwhile, numerous First Nations are among those being evacuated in Alberta due to wildfires. With more, here's CTV's Kathy Lee in Calgary.
Hundreds of people from Chipewyan Lake, Red Earth Creek, Peerless Trout First Nation and Loon River First Nation were told to leave their homes. Some evacuees are staying in 2 hotels in Edmonton. This is a video taken by a man from Loon Lake. He and 8 of his family members packed into their vehicle overnight. As they were driving to Edmonton, he says ash fell from the darkened sky.
It was scary. Scary because you could see the flames right from the highway. There's always worry in the back of your, because we have horses back there and we have animals, pets at home. A lot of people do, and short notice like that, under evacuation, it's really hard to take everything.
The Red Earth East Wildfire Complex, consisting of 10 different wildfires, is about 40 square kilometers in size.
We put that complex together because it's easier administratively for us to treat it as a single incident than have 10 different teams fighting 10 different fires.
These evacuation orders come days after the town of Swan Hills emptied out due to the Edith Lake wildfire, which has now grown to more than 71 square kilometers in size. Efforts are being made to secure the south end of the fire, which is closest to the town. Almost all of Alberta is now under extreme fire danger. The scorching heat, low humidity, and high wind is going to continue to make it challenging for firefighters on the ground. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
For more on the fire situation, our Truth in Politics panel is here. Negon Sinclair is a columnist with the Winnipeg Free Press, and Jennifer Leywitz is the CEO of Pasqua Strategies. Negon, we'll start with you. Of course, the state of emergency has been declared in the province of Manitoba. The military has been called in to move thousands of people. Thoughts on where we're at this early into the fire season?
It's too early to really start some criticisms, but Pimachikamak was asking for a national emergency to be called, or a provincial emergency, an emergency in their community, and for the armed forces to be sent in days before this. And so I don't want to get critical. We are in a situation involving 17,000 people that are being forcibly removed virtually overnight. I woke up this morning to over a dozen people staying in my house who are friends and relatives from the north, who I'm up in Yellowknife right now, but my house is now turned into an emergency shelter for some of our relatives. Fact is that all hands are on deck in Manitoba. Everybody has to come on. And the reason that the state of emergency is so critically important because it enables the province to be able to take utilize public infrastructure. Things like publicly funded buildings, also the convention center, indoor soccer complexes, to be able to very quickly set up shelter for those who have been displaced from the fires. I will say this. It's too early to start to talk about climate change and talk about the causes for this fire, but I'll just point this fact out. There's 102 fires in Manitoba this year. It's only May, and our average is 77. That's 30, almost 30 more, 25 more than we do in a year, and we still haven't hit June, July, and August, the hottest months of the year yet. That should tell you about the situation and the critical situation involving the North. And I know also that Jen personally is being impacted up in Prince Albert about some of these fires. And so this isn't something that's happened to those people. This is happening to our neighbors, our relatives, those who are very much even here on this panel.
Yeah, Jennifer, things aren't much better in parts of northern Saskatchewan, where at least 3 nations that we know of are evacuating and have called a state of emergency. What are you hearing and seeing there?
Our premier is apparently having a press conference at 1:30 today. Living in Prince Albert, we are quite literally the gateway to the north. So we are typically the first place that evacuees come because we're the central hub before you hit the north. It is very concerning because, once you get north of Prince Albert, that's where our boreal forest starts, and it is home to a majority of our Indigenous population in Saskatchewan. I have family members that are posting that now, the communities they live on are now being evacuated. And yesterday we got notified that there's ashes falling close to the community where my late grandmother is buried. And it's concerning, but also there's that piece of this is becoming all too familiar, kind of like Negon said, the conversation on climate change. Maybe people don't want to have it right now, but People are stressed, the conditions are bad, and I worry right now what this looks like for the impact on those people that are fleeing their communities in a state of crisis. Again, it's June, it's almost June, we're getting ready for people to graduate. Our young people are going to be displaced, our elders are going to be displaced. Like, this is a reoccurring crisis over and over and over again. And at some point we need to recognize as a province, as in the country, as a country, what that's doing to our people year after year, you know, not even feeling safe in their own homes.
Nigan, as Jen mentions there, you know, becoming all too familiar, and some gaps already being pointed out here in Manitoba. One being the chief of Pimicikamak Cree Nation calling for a bridge at Norway House as people waited, I think we were seeing like 9 hours to get on a ferry to cross. That could be pretty bad. I guess, is there going to be a time after this to reevaluate some of these things?
Well, this is exactly the bad cycle that we're in a country. Here's what I mean by that is we chronically underfund, build emergency situations in First Nations in which we see real gaps, problems that emerge that are not dealt with for decades. And I'm not just talking about bridges now. I'm talking about water main breaks. I'm talking about lack of just public basic infrastructure, electricity, internet. And in this case, we're putting people's lives in danger. And the country kind of just sits on the edge of like that, waiting for an emergency to come up. And then an emergency hits, a fire, a flood, a hurricane, a water main break, whatever it might be. And then boom, the country acts reactively, not proactively. And what ends up happening is that a lot of money is thrown at the problem. That's poor infrastructure, overnight infrastructure, which is never long-term built. And then we get into the situation of chronic problems over and over and over again for decades. And this is the exact cost of what climate change will be, but also what the exact cost of chronic neglect looks like, which we know has been going for 150 years. It is so disheartening and also extremely racist to continue to have a group of people in the country who are mistreated, not just in terms of policy, but in put into danger, put into life's danger. And you actually heard a little bit of glimpse of that with the anger and I think the kind of strong tone of Premier Wabkanu by saying that we're going to use whatever infrastructure is available. And he's fully aware that we're talking about dirt roads here. We're talking about ferries that are too under-resourced and too slow. And we're talking about airports that simply can't be protected when a fire comes by. And therefore planes can't land. The reality is that we have to have leadership outside of emergency situations that's proactive rather than just continuing to wait for emergency reactive responses that never provide solutions.
Lots more we can talk about on that front, but we'll leave it there. You two, thanks, Nigan. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Quebec has become the latest province to bring forward resource-related legislation that isn't sitting well with some First Nations. More on that after the break. Welcome back. Quebec Bill 97 intends to amend the Sustainable Forest Development Act. When passed, it will implement forest zoning for natural resource exploitation. It's already created blockades and objection from the Innu, Atikamekw, and Abenaki community members. APTN Savannah Craig attended a solidarity protest hosted Wednesday in Montreal.
Over 100 protesters took to the streets to denounce Bill 97. They were there in solidarity of a group called Mamu First Nation. Mamu is Innu for together, representing the three communities, Innu, Atikamekw, and Abenaki, that have come together to protest this bill. Inuk activist Emmy Fleming Dubuc organized the event. She says this bill highlights the larger issue of natural resource extraction at the expense of Indigenous people.
Au Nunavik aussi, on exploite les territoires. Il y a des mines un peu partout à travers l'ouest, je veux dire les territoires nordiques au Canada. Puis on laisse les Inuits dans des conditions pires que dans le tiers-monde.
Bill 97 was introduced just over a month ago, and it will amend various Quebec legislation, including the Sustainable Forest Development Act, which intends to implement forest zoning for natural resource exploitation. The bill says it will consider conservation measures and apply sustainable forest management, but those opposed to the bill say it's harmful to Indigenous land.
Pendant qu'on parle de crise climatique, eux, ils accélèrent la destruction.
Even before Bill 97 was introduced, Atikamekw communities have blocked logging trucks from passing through logging roads, while others have sent eviction notices to forestry companies.
Sur le territoire autochtone, l'histoire se répète. Ils exploitent, ils s'enrichissent, puis nous, on survit.
Indigenous people from communities from across the province gathered in Montreal. From the south,
even if I'm Anishinaabe, I take position in here.
To the north.
Je suis Inuk. Ma mère, elle vient de Kujarapik.
One activist at the march also highlighted the larger issue of colonialism across the world, from Portugal's colonization of Brazil.
They came to the land, they assumed that there was nobody there, and they could do as they wish, and they could just expel them and disregard them and kill them if necessary. It's the same thing that's happening.
Fleming Dubuc says this is not just an issue for Indigenous people, but for all Quebecers.
Les Québécois, Québécoises devraient se joindre parce que c'est 30% de nos forêts ici qui vont être exploitées, qui vont avoir des impacts sur notre environnement.
APTN News reached out to Quebec's Minister of Natural Resources for an interview, but we did not receive a response by our deadline. Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
The government of the Northwest Territories has published the results of its departmental Indigenous employment plan for the 2023-24 fiscal year. In 2022, the Indigenous Recruitment and Retention Framework was launched to encourage more Indigenous employment in the Northwest Territories Public Service. In a new report for the 2023-24 fiscal year, the territorial government was happy to share positive progress, which includes the first use of the Indigenous Development and Training Program and the launch of a recruitment-focused social media platform. You can find more on the framework on the territorial government's website. Time for one last quick break, but first a look at a story our Chris Stewart is working on.
I'm Chris Stewart in Calgary. This morning, about 24 people held a walk in honor of Levon Boyce Fox. He was shot and killed by Calgary police 2 years ago today.
We're here today to call for justice. We're here today to, to stand up and say that, you know what, this is not right. It has to stop.
Coming tomorrow on the APTN National News.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. While on a walk along the shoreline of Big Lake in St. Albert, Alberta, Ingo came across some nesting redneck grebe. Thanks for sharing. Send your photos to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be featured as our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, showers and 24 in Fredericton, 23 with rain in Halifax, 7 in Kuujjuaq, chance of snow and +2 in Nain, 23 with showers in Montreal, 19 and rain in Val-d'Or, rain and 19 in Sault Ste. Marie, 22 with showers in Ottawa, 23 with rain in Thunder Bay, sunny and 24 in Sioux Lookout. The sun will be out and 27 in Thompson and Norway House. Sunny and 30 for Winnipeg, 23 with sunny skies in Barons River. 27 in Regina, showers and 26 in Saskatoon. Rain and 22 in Buffalo Narrows, 20 with showers in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, 22 in High Level, rain and 20 in Fort Chipewyan. Sunny and 23 in Edmonton, 29 under sunny skies in Lethbridge. 22 in Vancouver, 30 in Kamloops. 19 in Prince George, showers and 10 in Dease Lake. 15 in Old Crow, 12 in Whitehorse. 19 with rain in Yellowknife, 20 in Wrigley. 5 in Sax Harbor, 13 in Paulatuck. 7 in Chesterfield and Whale Cove, 14 in Baker Lake, 2 in Resolute and Igloolik. APTN Investigates returns this week with a new episode. Journalist Brittany Guillot looks into the practice of medical assistance in dying or MAID. Thousands of people are approved for medically assisted death each year, including April Hubbard. Her story offers a rare look at how to navigate loss, love, and the deeply personal decision to end their life on their own terms. Here's a preview.
Death touches every corner of life. The pain it leaves behind is so pervasive, so acute. Like a shadow, it follows us. Silent, constant. And in the deepest moments of despair, it swallows every trace of light.
Beautiful weather for a walk today, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm glad. It's not going to be so great tomorrow.
In 2024, Jeff Rideout met April Hubbard. Like many people today, they met online. But their love story unfolded in a way few people ever experience.
I mean, I know everybody's not the same, but my gosh, how many of us would love to have the option to be surrounded by the people we love when we go? Is there a better way?
Life is short and we only have a very brief time on this planet, so go out there and don't hold back and live life the way you want to and the way you're meant to. I do believe very much that there's some kind of spirit world out there, so even though I don't understand exactly what that looks like and how I'll be able to access it, I believe that it's a continuation and not an end.
You can catch APTN Investigates a Good Death, airing this Saturday on APTN. Over to our Ottawa studio now, where Fraser Needham's standing by with a look at tonight's season finale of Nation to Nation.
Coming up after the evening news, Ontario's Ford government continues to push ahead with plans to develop the Ring of Fire through legislation called Bill 5. But First Nations are fighting back, saying they have not been consulted. Tensions continue to heighten at Queen's Park in Toronto this week. AFN Regional Chief for Ontario is here to talk about it. As well, another battle continues at the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal, this one between the federal government and the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society, or long-term reform in First Nations child welfare. Caring Society Cindy Blackstock is here to talk about that issue. And the NDP is also taking the government to task over Jordan's principal funding. Nunavut MP Lori Idlout is here to talk about that. All this ahead on Nation to Nation.
Thanks, Fraser. Looks like a big show to end off the season. You can catch Nation to Nation right here in about 90 seconds from now. We're all out of time for your APTN National News for this Thursday. There's much more, including more on the wildfire situation over on our website, aptnnews.ca. And Creason will have the very latest right here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy Miigwech, thanks for being with us. Have a great night.